how to write content that ranks number one on Google, how to do proper on-page SEO and get results like these, as you can see here. In this video, I'll show exactly how to do it step by step. Hi guys, this is Jackie from techjackie.com and I've been doing SEO for the past 7+ years. In this video, I'll show you how to properly write content that ranks, and we'll also be using some of the AI to help us generate this content as well. So without further ado, let's get started. So in this video, I'm planning to make it more like a step-by-step guide. So you'll see it step by step. So step one, what we'll be doing. Step two, what we'll be doing. A lot of things we'll be doing here are going to be more of a manual process. But we also will be using AI to kind of incorporate in between to kind of help us write the content better as well. Because at the end of the day, even with the age of AI, the fundamental of how we write SEO content doesn't even change. So there will be a total of 5 steps in this video I'll go through with you. So the first step, we're gonna know your main keyword and check intent, and we're gonna optimize main spots. That is, how to optimize your heading, your titles, etc., etc. And then we'll be creating a content outline manually, and also be using some of the AI to help us as well. And then also when it comes to content writing, the next step, how you should be actually writing your content. And then lastly, we'll talk about internal linking. Basically, when you have multiple pages on your website, how do you connect them properly together? So let's get started. To kind of demonstrate you how we'll be going about this, I'll be choosing a keyword here. And then I'll be also showing you in the back end of the WordPress website to kind of show you, okay, what we'll be doing, etc., here. Now you can adjust this based on your business, based on your platform, whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to show you step by step a little bit. I'm not going to write the entire content in this video, but I'm just going to show you a little bit of bits here and there. So let's say you want to rank for a keyword like SEO San Diego, right? So let's say you're a um let's say you're an SEO agencies and you want to rank your SEO keyword. Now it doesn't have to be SEO keyword, this keyword. It can be any type of keyword. The first step that you have to do is to know your main keyword. Obviously, you have to know what is the main keyword for each page you want to rank for. So we talk about writing content here. Before you even arrive at writing content, before this, you should be obviously doing your proper keyword research, and you should also be planning the proper sitemap for your website. So what I mean by this is, even before getting to the content writing, you have to have a proper sitemap and proper pages assigned to different keywords. So let's say this is your website sitemap, for example. Now, the general rule of thumb is each individual page, basically will be targeting one main keyword or one group of topic. We will not try to overlap different keyword, different topics, uh, because we don't want to basically confuse Google. So let's say you have your home page. You have to already know what your home page is gonna rank for. It can be, let's say an SEO agency. So let's say your home page you want to rank for SEO San Diego, for example. Or let's say you don't want to rank your home page for anything. You can use your home page to rank for your brand name, for example. It doesn't have to even rank for anything. Now you have to know these steps first before you even get into content writing. I'm not going to get into details of this because it's going to take a long time, more than usual. You can find some of my old videos that I talk about these, or you can even check out other online tutorials. But okay, first you have to know your main keyword for the page you want to optimize for. And then you also will be checking the intent. Remember what I mean by intent here is basically every keyword, everything that you search on Google, there is some kind of like the format of content that Google is expecting it to rank for. So let's say when you search for SEO San Diego, when you look at the first page results, you see, maybe two types of content ranking. One would be something like a service-based pages in a content format. So you can check out some of these pages. You'll see that they're more or less like a service type pages. They tell what they are, the different type of services, some of the testimonials. Again, this is also more like a service type format content, as you can see here, right? Now there is also a possibility of having other type of content ranking, like for example, this one here. This is more like a directory type of content. As you can see, it doesn't tell information about any specific agencies or any specific service provider, but rather an aggregation of different companies providing SEO in San Diego. So this is what I mean by intent here. Intent means the angle, the type of format you should that Google is kind of expecting for that keyword. Before even jumping to writing the content, you have to first understand the format of content you should be producing first. Because if you're not producing the type of format that Google is expecting to have, then you find a hard time to rank for that keyword or particular topic. Now, when it comes to keywords like this, like when you, let's say you do a search for it and you find that there are multiple intent or multiple format, as you can see, a lot of these are service pages, but you also find a mix of directory type pages, like for example, this one here, and even this one here, again, another directory type pages here. So this is what we call as mixed intent, which means that a keyword can serve more than one intent or more than one type of page format can rank for that keyword. Uh, so how would we go about this? Obviously, you have to pick only one intent, means you have to pick only one format to go with. Now, the general rule of thumb is you want to go with the type of intent or type of format that Google prefers more, which means that you have to first analyze the first page results and see, okay, if let's say you want to rank for this, which type of pages Google actually prefers to rank more? Is it the service pages or is it the aggregation type pages, right? So as you can see in on this page, we have like one, two, three, four, five, probably about five or six service type pages and only like maximum of two aggregator type pages, which means that Google prefer ranking the service type of pages more, right? So that means you have a higher chance of ranking for the service type pages rather than let's say aggregation type pages, right? So if let's say your keyword, let's say you're an SEO service provider, and after checking the intent, now you see that Google prefers to rank service page better, then you have a good chance of ranking for that, right? But if let's say you're a business directory listing a bunch of SEO companies in San Diego, then now you know that you have a lesser chance of ranking. Why? Well, because Google only gives like two spots to those type of pages, whereas Google gives like six or seven spots to service type of pages. So we try to go with one that Google prefers more. That's the general rule of thumb here, right? Now this doesn't this it can also change to different type of keywords. So let's say you're an e-commerce website, and let's say you sell like swim suits. And for example, let's say you want to rank for swim shirts, and you do a search for it, and then you check what type of pages are ranking. Is it more of a product pages, or is it more like a category pages, or is it more like a blog review type pages, right? So you have to analyze and see what are the type of content that Google generally prefers. If you're an e-commerce, then you obviously have two options, either to rank for product or to rank for category pages. Now, when it comes to deciding between product or category pages, a lot of time Google will go with category pages, but sometimes if it is very specific type of product or sometimes very specific model of product, then Google will go with more of a product pages. So again, you have to try to see. But generally speaking, sometimes you can also use product to rank for categories, and you can use category to rank for product. It doesn't matter. But from my experience, generally speaking, the product category pages perform better than product pages. So this is probably something you want to observe over a period of time as well and see. But that's how you would go about with the first step. So once you know the type of format of content you'll be creating, next we'll be optimizing the main spots. So what I mean by optimizing the main spots here is there are six places on your content that kind of have a higher weight or importance when it comes to on-page SEO. So let's say, for those of you who don't know yet, let's say you have a page here. Your page is divided into different elements. So the first element on the top of the page is what we call as title tag. So title tag is what also gets shown here on Google search results, as you can see. And then you have like other things like, for example, title. Then you have your H1, which is your primarily headings. Now, if you don't know, when you do websites, there are different kinds of heading tags that you have on your page: H1, H2, H3, all the way to H6. Now, for SEO, generally we want to have H1 on the top of the page, and H1 is one of the first heading tags used on HTML page, and it also serves a purpose. It has a high weight, and then you have like your first paragraph, and then you have a bunch of like your heading tags, H2, H3, a bunch of paragraphs, listicles, all that. So you have different type of elements on the page. So when we talk about main spots, or the spots or elements that have a higher importance in Google's eyes when it comes to on-page SEO, or when it looks at your content, there are generally six spots, six places that you want to first optimize them and get them done right before you actually even get into the content writing part. So what are they? First will be the title, and then your second will be your H1, third will be your URL, fourth will be your H2 and H3, fifth will be your first paragraph, and sixth will be your meta description. Right? So these are the six places on your web page, on your on each of your page of the content, that Google gives a high importance when it comes to ranking your content. So first you have to optimize these places, and then only you can start getting to writing the content and other stuff. Now, I'm not going to get into full detail of how you want to optimize each of these spots, because they're a general way of how to optimize them. That is, you can find in most of the SEO guidelines out there, like how you want to optimize your title, how you want to optimize your H1, etc., etc. But also there are specific ways of how I optimize these things as well. Now, like I said, I can't go into much detail of how I do them, because the way I do them is kind of different from the way that other people are doing. Because when I do them, before even I start optimizing them, I already have some kind of like single variable experiment done first. So I single variably test each spot using a fake keyword to see what exactly the type of title that Google prefers, what exactly the type of H1 Google prefers, etc., etc. So instead of just guessing around and, let's say, finish off writing one page of content with the title, everything ready, and then test them, I specifically isolate them one by one in a controlled environment and see exactly how to optimize each one of them. So if you want to learn more, you can check out my SEO coaching program. That's what I get into detail and basically teach you how to optimize each one of them specifically. But for the sake of this video, we're gonna go with something which is kind of in the middle, which means it's not gonna get into too much detail, but also something you can definitely use right away. So first, title tag, how you want to optimize them. You want to have your main keyword on the leftmost hand side. So whatever your keyword is, the main keyword for each page, like I said, you have to first know your main keyword for each page on the leftmost hand side, and then you will follow by a bunch of what I call as relevant words. Relevant words, right? So let's say, for example, now if you're using SEO, if you're using WordPress to optimize your title tag, you have to be using some kind of SEO plugins. Again, I'll not go into detail of this. This is something you should probably already maybe do a little bit of research on yourself. But to optimize your title tag, I'm using Yoast SEO here. As you can see, I'm using Yoast SEO. It's one of the famous SEO plugins on WordPress. And this is my test website. Now, to optimize the title tag, this is how you optimize them, is in this Yoast box. So let's say I want to rank for SEO San Diego. I would my title tag would go with something like SEO San Diego. Like I said, the leftmost hand side, we try to put the main keyword there, and then then followed by a bunch of relevant words. What I mean by relevant word here is words that are relevant to your keyword in general. You can use your own understanding of the topic. You can check out what the majority of competitors are doing on the first page. So as you can see, like they have like companies, they have local Some of them talked about, 2026, affordable. So something like, general relevant words that are relevant to your service. So SEO San Diego, you can call it something like best local SEO agency 2026, for example, something like that. So this would be a good title as well that you want to go about and optimizing them. And then next off, you have your H1. So H1, if you're using WordPress, H1 would be your title here. It would be the name of the page. So with H1, general rule of thumb is the best way you can just copy and use the same as your title. That's how I do it. So you can just copy this and then put it right there. You can obviously optimize it in other ways, but my own way, I like to kind of just copy and paste because based on my test, it kind of works the best. I'm not, like I said, I'm not gonna explain how it works, but just so you know, this is how we go about it. Now the URL here, URL very for the URL on WordPress, you want to optimize again using the Yoast box or any of the SEO box there. They generally would call it a slug. It's the same thing. So URL is basically, so let's say if you click on like for example, this result, then you have this at the back of the page. So if it's home page, you won't have anything, but if it is inner pages, any other inner pages, you have this. This is more like a slug. So with the URL, general rule of thumb is you want to go with something very short, and also contains your keyword. So let's say it can be like SEO San Diego, something like that. This is what many of the guideline also would recommend you to do. So it's something which also I kind of follow as well. And then you have your H2s and H3s. Now H2 and H3s, what are they? So let's say you have your page here. Now on every page, it will be divided into multiple sections or topic. So let's say you have like your let's say this is your H1, and you have like this your H2s, and sometimes under each of H2, if there's like subtopic under it, then you would use H3s there. That's generally how you would want to arrange your page. So you would have a page on the top, you had H1, and then you have a bunch of H2s to divide the page into main sections. And then if any of the main section has further main section, you will use H3. Like I said, in HTML, we have H1, H2, H3, all the way to H6. But in for the SEO's point of view, we only optimize up to around H3. So H1, H2, and H3. The reason why I put H2 and H3 together is because H2 and H3 kind of like weighs the same in my experiment. So either you use H2 and H3 interchangeably, or you group them together, it doesn't matter. But just for the structure point of view, you want to divide it into something like this, H1 and then multiple H2s and then some of the H3s divided on the page. H2 and H3, um, general rule of thumb is you want to have, you want to make it natural, divide the page, into relevant section. That's the most I can tell about how you want to optimize H2 and H3. So like let's say you have your H2s, talk about your testimonials, you have your H2s talk about your services, right? You have your H2s talk about, let's say why choose your company, for example. So you see the way you use H2 is you want to divide the page into different sections, different topics. That is kind of like natural and relevant to your topic. Now, what are the H2s you need to have on the page, etc., etc. I'm going to talk about in the content outline, but generally, this is how you want to optimize them. And the fifth part is first paragraph. So what I mean by first paragraph is the first chunk of content right after your H1. So let's say this is your H1 here, and then you will start writing your content right around here, right? So the first chunk of content right after your H1 is what we call first paragraph. So if you look at this website, this is let's say if this is their first, this is their H1, this will be their first paragraph. It might not look like exactly like a paragraph format, but generally speaking, you want to try use paragraph to kind of make Google understand a little bit better. But this would be their first paragraph. Or a lot of people would also call it as top of the fold content. So generally, like, the first view that user sees, something like that, right? So how do you want to optimize this part is you want to make it very obvious of what the page is about. So this comes from the theory, not really the theory, but this comes from the claim that and even Google themselves says this, like, we don't want to try to make the page too overly long than it is required. We want to make the page as easy as possible for users to understand what they're getting. So when, let's say, they land on the page, you have to tell right away what your page is about, and that is the function of your first paragraph. A lot of people write their first paragraph treating them as more like a very vague introduction. And I read a lot of content online. Whenever I read the first paragraph and I still don't understand what this page is about, I usually just click back and go to other web pages to read more. So on the first paragraph, the first chunk of content on the page, you would want to try to tell exactly what the page is about, summarize easily what the page is about, just give the answers what users are looking for right on the top of the full content or the first paragraph. When you write this, you want to have your main keyword maybe sprinkle in here and there once or twice, and if possible, sprinkle in some of the relevant words as well. That will help kind of like Google understand better what your page is about. So have your main keyword there, tell exactly what the page is about, make it very obvious, have some relevant words. Okay, and then six, meta description. Meta description is what actually gets shown right here. So this is what we call meta description. Nowadays, even if you write a perfect meta description, Google still won't show them as often. They'll usually pick up from somewhere on the page. So let's say you wrote something and this is something they pick up from the content of the page. Let's say they pick up from here or there. It's not that important now, to be honest, when it comes to optimization in terms of how important Google sees them. But if you want to optimize them properly, it's more or less just like your first paragraph. It should summarize, it should tell exactly what the page is about. But you want to try to not go too long with the meta description. Because if you go too long, what happened here is Google cut it off. So, like for example, this one here, there's a limit of how far you can go. In Yoast SEO, you optimize it from this box. As you can see, when you start typing, there's this bar here. And then if let's say it starts going too long, then there's a cutoff limit that it will kind of tell you. As you can see, there's different level here. Um, so this is, and even the title, there's a length, but again, there's even a bar telling you how far are you now in the limits. So that's how you want to optimize your main spots. So once you know your format, you optimize your main spot. Probably you can leave your H2 and H3 for now, because your H2 and H3, you want to first know what are them to have on the page. And that's what we're going to do in the next step. That is content outline here. So if you have stuck up to this far, so I hope you kind of stick a little bit more, because we're now going to go a little bit faster now, and it's gonna be I promise you it won't take much longer. But now we're at the third step of content outline. So you know your format, you have optimized your all of the important spots or places on your on page on your web page. Third, if we want to create a content outline, which means before even we start writing, we want to have an outline first of what the page is about. So let's say your keyword is SEO San Diego. So you want to have an outline of what your page is about. So this outline generally would be your kind of like H2s and H3s, right? So basically have an outline of what topics you want to have on your page. So if you look at this page here, you want to have your content outline. Now, this is where you can use AI to help. You can, but I also recommend you do it manually first, and then you ask the AI for some more guidelines, right? So let's say for SEO San Diego, how I generally like to do content outline here. I like to open a bunch of competitors' content. So let's say I open this one, just two websites for the sake of example, and I want to just go through their website, look around, see what are the topics or sections they have on their web page. So they talk about their testimonials, they talk about their services, right? They talk about why choose them, they talk about different awards that they're getting and contact. And then you would want to try find general pattern here. Because when you start noticing different web pages, you'll see that there will be pattern. There will be some topics that keep on overlapping here and there. And the reason why we want to try to first cover these overlapping contents because these are the ones that Google could generally prefer because they're ranking the first page, right? There must be some good reasons why they're ranking. Obviously, they're ranking because of different factors, but one of them should definitely be their good content too, right? So so the fact that they have these overlapping topic means that users must be also preferring them, which means they must be good. They must be what Google are also expecting. So that's why I recommend you look at a bunch of these top ranking results and then see what are the general patterns, general topics they have. So I hope you remember what they have, what this website has. So let's take a look at this. So again, it tells who they are, what they do, why choose them. Again, a bunch of you know, recognition awards, and some of the FAQs. Okay, so this doesn't go much, but it at least tells something you can see here. So it tells. So what do we have here? So obviously, first we'll have introductions. So this can be your first paragraph, and then we see from from these two websites, they talk about why choose them. This can also be like quick about as well. As you can see, the two websites that they quickly introduce who they are and they tell exactly who they are and all that. And then we have like the services, as you can see, and then we have like recognition or awards, right? And then like probably you can have like so this one has FAQ, this one doesn't have. This one has testimonial instead. You want to probably check one more, kind of see what you can get there. So again, what they do, the services, process, okay, why choose them again? And then, what else do we have here? Case studies, okay, results are there, okay, obviously, and then who they work with, okay. So we see that two of them have testimonials, so we want to maybe add testimonials there, for example. And then FAQ, if you want, you can add it to kind of make the page a little bit more relevant. So this is general content outline that you would have. So this would become your more or less S2s or your section. So you have a bunch of section divided into services into why choose us there, and then all that. Now you can also start using AI for this. So you can use AI to further do some brainstorming and get more topic ideas. Your general rule of thumb of writing content is you have to first try to cover what Google's kind of prefer and go a little bit extra, because if you only stop this much, then what happened here is you're just more or less not too different from others. We want to create an impression that we are also unique in our own way. So what I want to do is, let's say I've used ChatGPT here. Now you can use any type of AI you want. I just prefer ChatGPT. It's just my favorite AI. So okay, I can go with a prompt of something like, I'm creating a service-based page for my keyword SEO San Diego. These are my uh, content. This is my content outline, and then you would want to give it something like this. And then I would ask the AI suggest a few more topics that are relevant for SEO and users. So this is very easy, right? It's simply just asking it to to kind of like suggest a few more. So you can now choose from this list. Case studies, not so bad. Process, yes, you might want to have a process as well. Pricing packages, pretty very good. Industry reserve, yes, you can also have that. Yeah, you see a few more extra topics now you have on your page that you think are relevant for users and SEO. See, so this is very easy. Create content outline. Now, once you have your content outline, it's just time to start writing. Now, the writing process is very easy, very straightforward. Don't try to complicate it. I have a couple of content guidelines that I have for my SEO, for the way that I do. Is what I also teach in SEO, in my SEO coaching program. But my general rule of thumb it only mainly boils down to two things. First, keep it short, straightforward, which means that you don't want to write your content too long, but also not too short. You want to make it very straightforward, right? Uh, don't try to beat around the bush. Don't give like a very long introduction that doesn't get to the point right away. Anything that is not necessary on the page, just remove them. And then secondly, keyword flow naturally. You want to have your main keyword sprinkle in here and there on your web page. It doesn't even have to be an exact match of that keyword if it doesn't make sense. So let's say you want to rank for SEO San Diego. You don't want to have this exactly there as well. You can just have like SEO in San Diego in the content. Make sure it flows naturally, that you're not stuffing in here and there, right? That's just a very easy of how I would go about writing content. Now, when I write content, I also like to include, besides the main keyword, I also like to include a bunch of relevant words. So I talked about relevant words before. So words that are relevant to your topic. Like I said, I'm not gonna go into detail of these relevant words, but general rule of thumb, like let's say if you're an expert in the topic, you should already be talking about those relevant words. So let's say if you talk about SEO San Diego, you want to talk about the word like agencies, you want to talk about the word like marketing. I'm sure you already have all of these words present there, but sometimes you might miss them. Sometimes you might not have them enough on the page, etc., etc. So these relevant words you can find them further using any of the on-page SEO tools out there. Like there are things such as Surfer SEO, uh, Phrase.io. So all these are like on-page SEO tools that kind of give you a little bit of edge when it comes to writing content because it analyzes the first page results and suggests you some of the important words that you should definitely be having that Google sees them as relevant. Now, my own way of how I find relevant words, I don't use any of those tools. I have my own tools that I built specifically just for this purpose because I don't just look at the first page, I look beyond that. And my tools also uses BERT or pretty much like the same kind of like the backbone of the Google's on page algorithms. So they analyze a little bit better. It even tells what words are more important than the others. Again, it's something which I don't share publicly. It's what available for myself and only for my SEO coaching program. So if you want to learn more, you can shoot me a quick email, and then we probably can discuss on the program itself if you're interested. But it's something of like we can say a gimmick more of that what is important. I use it because I want to have an extra edge on my on page. But even without those, you can still write a very good content by following the steps that I've been outlining to you till this far, right? So writing content, nothing crazy. Just keep it simple, short, straightforward. Make a keyword flow naturally. You can use these tools to kind of give a little bit extra edge on for your content relevance, but that's how you want to write content because once you cover the topic, once you have enough topic ready, you can basically write content and rank for pretty much anything. You can also ask AI for this too. So like you can say if let's say you want to use AI to write content, right? So how about that? So if you want to use AI to write content, which is also what I've been doing a lot nowadays, is you want to obviously um there's really no specific prompt, but you can say something like write me a content on the topic SEO San Diego with the following rules. So you can use the rule that I just explained to you and turn it into a prompt. So first, keep include all the relevant topics that I suggested that I gave you earlier. So you can do like this. Plus, something like process, because remember we also add ChatGPT for extra topics, right? So you go with what I gave it, and then plus the process, and then we have what else here? Plus industry we serve. So these are the extra topics that ChatGPT suggested, plus the one that I gave earlier. And then I also would also tell it to make sure the content is straightforward and not and straightforward and concise enough, but not too short. And third, make sure to add as many relevant words as possible to the content. So we talk about relevant words here. Like I said, I use my own tools, but I also sometimes let ChatGPT or any AI suggest me and let it does its magic as well. It works too. Not saying that it doesn't work, but you can use whatever I just gave you, turn it into a prompt like this, and just hit enter. That's how it is. That's how I generally just write content. Now, obviously, you probably will not use this as your final output. You want to adjust it a little bit more, make it more relevant to your business, etc., etc. You want to probably enhance some of these sections a little bit more, like because some of these are like very short. You want to maybe get into more detail, so you can give extra prompt of, let's say, give more content on this or give more content on this, right? So as you can see, very good structure, and it also includes a bunch of relevant words for me, like all these visibilities, this one, all that. So yeah, this is how you want to use AI too. Very easy nowadays, thanks to the AI. But as you can see, I keep it very short, very minimal. I hardly use AI. Mostly it's very manual. It comes from our own understanding. So even if the AI is there, we still want to go with a bit more manual process. Lastly, internal link, how you want to be linking from different pages to another, nothing complicated. So let's say you have a bunch of your pages created. Like I said, I'm not gonna get into too much details in this video. I have like 10 steps of how I do internal linking, but on a very surface level, there are just two things. First is the quantity. So let's say if this page is your most important ranking page, if let's say you want to rank this page the most, you want to have as many internal links going to that page as much as possible from others. And secondly, you want to use more or less keyword anchor text. So like let's say this is about SEO San Diego. You want to use like SEO in San Diego, local SEO in San Diego, etc., etc. So you want to try use different words that are very closely or just exact match of that to your page, but you don't want to always use the same. You want to try to mix in different words. So you can say like check out our SEO services in San Diego, learn more about our SEO case study, something like that. So you want to, maybe it doesn't always have to even have the SEO at San Diego in there. It can just be SEO. It can just be just San Diego. But you want to try and make it very relevant, close relevant to your main keyword as possible. The reason why we don't want to repeat them as much as many as we want is because there is some kind of over optimization too with this. So you want to try to avoid that. And that's how I do internal linking. Like I said, there's more to this, but we're not gonna make it too long. So that's, I think, is pretty much it. How you want to use AI, how you want to write your content. And now again, if let's say you want to optimize other type of pages, be it your blogs, be it your e-commerce pages, again, you want to do the same thing. It is a repeatable process. If it is more like a category type of pages, you don't want to have a lot of content, because again, the general rule of thumb is we want to see the intent, we want to see the format. So if the format is, let's say, showing a lot of products, you want to go with that. if the format, if let's say writing a lot of content to kind of show your expertise and all that, you want to go with that. So go with whatever is already there. You can use AI for brainstorming, for content outline. You can use AI to even write content. But again, a lot of things should be done manually. That's all for it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section down below. I'm trying to answer them as soon as possible. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.